Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about the 4 kinds of anxiety that you can expect from your animal. Not all anxiety is the same, and we want to understand what type of anxiety your pet has so that we can rewire it and work through it so that they can have a far more harmonious experience. So, number 1 is temperamental anxiety, and this type of anxiety is often seen in breed-specific animals. So it is based off of their temperament and their personality, and we often see it in working dogs that were made for hunting, for racing, all of these things. It is in their genetics. This is often seen in Alsatians, Huskies that were meant to run so much every day and work in a team with a leader. We see it in Beagles, those are hunting dogs. We see it in Greyhounds, but then we also see it in breeds that are prone to certain personality traits. So Havanese, Bichon Frise, short hair pointers, these kinds of dogs. And the key with temperamental anxiety with these kinds of dogs is first of all understanding what is going on for them as a unique individual. So there's 2 things with this type of anxiety. The first thing is to reduce the excess energy that is happening in their body. If you think about it, for example, a husky is made to be running and expending so much energy every single day, but they're sitting in an apartment, and so there is a pent-up, their body is naturally producing a ton of energy and it is not being expended. So the key is expending energy with these kinds of animals. And a really fun tip and trick is 15 minutes of sensory exercise is the exact same as an hour of physical exercise. So if you aren't able to take your husky for a 7-hour run, using sensory exercises and sensory tools is an amazing way to expend that excess energy that doesn't need to sit in their body. And coupling it with something like a full spectrum hemp oil to reduce that excess energy that is being produced every single day. You're not making them high, you're not numbing them, you're just taking the edge off. So that's temperamental anxiety. Number 2 is separation anxiety, and this is the anxiety that we hear about a lot. And what is separation anxiety? Separation anxiety is the anxiety that is produced because an animal perceives a negative feeling associated with either being separated from their parent or from being alone. So they have a negative association with this situation and with this experience. And so what we want to do, and this can come from animals being rescued that were left for long periods of time, that were left in a shelter over a long period of time, that lived in a volatile environment. But it can also be in animals that have had a shift in dynamic, a shift in daily routine. Separation anxiety, they often either don't trust or don't feel at peace with being alone, or they don't feel at peace with being away from you. So those are the 2 things that you've got to understand. What is it about them as a unique individual that is causing their separation anxiety? Separation anxiety is not the same across the board. And then we have to rewire that. So a great way to rewire separation anxiety is, number 1, to figure out where the separation anxiety is coming from and why, and getting to the root of it, and then rewiring how they perceive being separated from you or being alone. So what we do, and this is why I created the HEAL method. The HEAL method is basically 2 things. It's lifting the curtain of anxiety with a tool like my full spectrum hemp oil. You lift the curtain of anxiety to the side so that they can see, okay, I'm alone, this is how I feel. And then through repetition, allowing them experiences that they start to enjoy being alone, they start to enjoy being separated from you. It's an adventure, it's a positive experience. And through consistency and persistence in doing that over time, we now replace this negative association with being alone with a positive one. And this can only really happen if the curtain of anxiety has been lifted. Otherwise, you're just doing this and this dog has, or this cat has this anxiety curtain in front of them, they can't really see the reality of things. So that's why we couple those 2 things together. The 3rd type of anxiety is illness-induced anxiety. And illness-induced anxiety is often seen in animals where they've got this sudden onset of anxiety and you don't know where it came from. Nothing new has happened, they haven't had a change in dynamics, or nothing traumatic has recently happened. They may be displaying signs of weight loss or weight gain, thyroid issues, hair loss, lethargy, sudden onset of seizures that are not normal. These are signs that there is an underlying illness happening. So you either know what the underlying illness is, and if you don't, please pause this video, take your animal to a vet. Often these signs are so subtle that there may be something else going on, and then you can tackle that physical issue, and I will help you tackle the anxiety that is associated with that. Often with illness-induced anxiety, there's a pent-up energy, an excess energy because of what's going on in the body. Maybe there's pain, maybe there's fear, maybe there's something that we don't know, and there's this build-up of energy, and this is displaying itself as anxiety. Obviously, get medical attention, speak to a veterinarian. I'm not a veterinarian, and deal with what's physically going on. If you do know what's physically going on and there is still anxiety being produced, again, I highly recommend using a full spectrum hemp oil to take the edge off and to help reduce the inflammation and the anxiety that is happening in their body. And the last anxiety, and this is the anxiety that I am very well versed in, is post-traumatic anxiety, otherwise known as PTSD. We throw around this word PTSD a lot, and PTSD may come from an extremely traumatic situation, but it can also come from a small trauma that has now manifested itself in the minds of an animal and in their bodies. So it can be, and it is often seen in animals that have come from severe abuse situations. I work with a lot of animals that have come from the Yulin dog meat trade, from testing labs, from severe abuse situations, from puppy mills, just the worst possible things. And so understandably they have a lot of trauma and a lot of fears around a lot of things. But then there are also animals who live a pretty good life, but there was a random event that caused anxiety. Maybe something fell on them, maybe there was a car accident, maybe there was a loud bang, and suddenly this anxiety has been generated. And so again, there is a negative association and fear and fight or flight in their body associated with certain people, places, objects, things, experiences. And what do we want to do? We want to say, okay, I understand why you're experiencing this anxiety. Let's take a pause. Let's lift the curtain of anxiety that is being produced in front of you all the time. Lift this curtain of anxiety and start to see that we don't actually have to fear those things that once caused us fear before. And that can only happen through repetition. So for example, if a dog was abused by a man, now this dog has a negative association and fear associated with men. And now my body's producing this anxiety, my mind's producing this anxiety when men are around. So what we do is we say, I understand, let's lift the curtain of anxiety so you can be in reality. And now all of a sudden, you're having these positive experiences around men, fun, adventure, and through repetition of doing that, they start to associate positive feelings and expectations in their body and mind associated with that object of a man. Doing those things together, coupling them, is an amazing way to tackle the anxiety and the fears at the core so that the mind and the body stop generating that anxiety and that pent-up energy. So I hope that this helped. If you have questions about what kind of anxiety your pet may have, feel free to send me a DM. And for any of you that want to start tackling the anxiety at the core, head to my website www.liveheal.com. A pop-up's going to come up. You can enter your information. You'll get a special code unique just for you to get you tackling this anxiety so that they can start experiencing a fully harmonious experience alongside you. And a general rule of thumb, I highly recommend sticking with the Heal method for at least 3 months. These are natural, full spectrum plants, and they are working in unison with the unique endocannabinoid system of your animal. And so it takes time for this dance to happen to find the perfect balance. Feel free to DM me if you have any questions, and I hope that this helps.